Welcome to Punchline Talks Politics. My name is Mark Owen, and today my special guest is Martin Surl. He's the ex-police crime commissioner for Gloucestershire. He stood as an independent in 2012, 2021. He's beaten into third place at the last election, but he's standing again, this time in the mayor election, as under the Liberal Democrat umbrella. Welcome, Martin, to Punchline Talks Politics.
Thank you, Mark. Great to see you again. And by the way, thank you for sponsoring the No Child Left Behind over in Cheltenham. Brilliant work.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. And it's great to see you back again. Obviously, we worked together quite closely, especially during the pandemic as well. So we know each other quite well. But I just want to start from the very beginning. Why? Why is the big question? Why do you want to do this again? Why do you want to put yourself through it?
It's a decision I came to quite recently. A lot of things happened in my life. Did I really want to do this? Was I up for the fight again? And I absolutely am. Secondly, the last year of my time in office was completely dominated by COVID. The response to that, it was devastating for the country and for the police too. It's a very hard time. And there's unfinished business, Mark. The year before COVID hit, I was becoming very concerned about some of the performance issues within the constabulary, their response to burglary, to retail crime. This is all documented at the time. And I put a challenge to the Chief Constable to say, Chief, I know him very well. We have to get to a position where in this county, Gloucestershire, every crime matters. Because at the moment, it seems like it doesn't. And he accepted that challenge, but then COVID got in the way. So I'm back. I'm coming back with LIB DEM support because I clearly believe now they've changed the voting system. It's now first past the post. It's almost impossible for an independent to win, and probably anybody else who's not in the final two, the big two. And in Gloucestershire, it is the Lib Dems and the Conservatives.
Now,
so that's why I joined the party.
Let's be honest about it. There are no other independent police and crime commissioners left in the UK, isn't it?
No, so there were 12 of us. We've always held the balance of power when we were there, which is a great place to be. I worked well with Labour, particularly. I worked well with most of the Tories. And I worked well with Plaid Cymru. So, I'm still independent thinking. That's the policy of the Liberal Democrats. They're not going to try and treat me as a puppet. I'm very at ease with that. And of course, Mark, I want to win. They actually beat me in the last election, even though I had hardly any policies and hardly any manifesto at that time. Well, that's all changed now. We're going to go into this together. I'm hoping my friends, who are not many in the Labour Party and the Tory Party as well, will support me, because you can vote for who you want, no matter what party you belong to. It's a secret ballot. And that's the only way we are going to remove the Tories as the Police and Crime Commissioner. I'm not anti-Tory per se, but I don't think in Gloucestershire, I think I'll do a better job than the incumbent. No hard feelings to him.
Okay, well, let's talk about that then. Let's talk about, first of all, what's happened since you've, not been there. So since Chris Nelson took over as Police and Crime Commissioner, what would you say he's done wrong? What would you say he's done right?
Well, I don't think he's done a lot. I don't dislike him. I think he's been pretty mediocre. Strangely, he's actually been delivering the vast majority of things that were in my manifesto, not the things that were in his manifesto, because mine was well thought through. So he's done some good things. It's the constabulary I'm more concerned about than him. They've been under huge pressure. That. They've had some difficult reports. Some on my watch. We've got to accept that. So I'm not saying he's done anything particularly wrong. I don't think I can think of anything he's done particularly well. Just down to him personally, rather than the Chief Constable, the officers on the street, the investigators, and so on. So, look, we go back a long way. We did some pretty imaginative things. I reintroduced neighbourhood policing when it was incredibly tough to do. I championed the green agenda, that. We built the first training centre down in Banfurlong. The list goes on and on and on of the things that I achieved. And I actually did everything I said I would in my manifesto. By all means, go back and check it. And unfortunately, he hasn't.
And what's the main accusation there?
It's not an accusation, it's a matter of facts, really. He came into office promising loads of extra officers. That's what he said, so we can be accurate. It's his words. The community want to see bobbies on the beat in their own communities. We all want that. That's why I have promised to recruit 300 more officers and 150 more special constables during my 3-year term of office. Okay, that began in May 2021. They haven't been delivered. There's no extra money for that. I couldn't have delivered it. We're talking full-time police officers. He was going to match what the government had given us through the Uplift programme, something I negotiated with Labour and the Conservatives back in 2018-19. They don't exist, and I've got the figures to show that they don't exist. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done it either.
I'm going to ask you one thing, Martin. Is obviously the thing that's been been thrown back at you is that that you'd left the police in special measures by the time you stood down. What's your comeback to that?
Well, firstly, I didn't leave the police in special measures. That was 6 months, just shy of 6 months after I left. They did, throughout my time, there's been dozens of HMIC inspectorate reports, overwhelmingly good, some issues here and there, which we'd expect. During the middle of COVID, the inspectorate came in to inspect just 4 forces. Right in the middle of COVID, they didn't actually visit the force. They did it all virtually, and they were quite brutal. But what they actually told the chief constable and told the public was what I've been telling him as well. I was doing my job. I was holding the force to account. I pretty much spoke to every management level in the constabulary to tell them that their response to burglary was not good enough. This is all a matter of record. I did research on retail crime to say what you say you're doing, you're not doing it. It's not a good enough response. And the head of crime came back to say, we haven't got this right. We're far from perfect on this. That was the head of crime. Around pet theft, I would say when people were actually ringing in to say that their dog had been lost or stolen, they couldn't distinguish between a dog that had gone lost and one that had been taken for ransom, and they accepted that. And so it went on. I was very concerned about the quality of the investigations. I wasn't one to blame because, my goodness, it was hard out there for the officers. The cuts were devastating. So I was doing my job. And I guess, it's convenient to say that's all my fault. Well, I'm not that good. There's, a lot of officers in the constabulary. It's the chief constable who has to deliver that. I'll take my share of the responsibility. Of course I do. I was horrified to see that. But we didn't go into special measures when I was in force. It happened 6 months later because he came in without a plan. And I've never seen in an inspector's report them comment on a PCC. It's not the protocol. They don't comment on elected officials. But what did they say? Let me word it so I get it absolutely right. The new PCC is committed to increase numbers of police officers and staff by more than 200 than is already budgeted for. The force has not yet planned how it can afford to pay for these extra officers or how they will be used. So when you're in a crisis, just come out of COVID, you've already been told that your investigations aren't good. A person arrives with no plan, no costed plan. They were distracted. Now, I can't prove this, but I spoke to a lot of people within the force and within the county. They had no plan and they were distracted. When they should have been carrying on with the Investigative Excellence programme, the training, they were distracted. And Mark, those officers weren't affordable. We needed new IT systems. My manifesto said we need new IT systems because we're falling behind on public contact. That was in my manifesto. It's being delivered. Well done, Chris Nelson. But it wasn't in his manifesto.
Okay, I'm going to ask you. Okay, thanks ever so much for that. Business crime, let's talk about that. Obviously, shoplifting. I'm always interested in business crime, fraud in particular. What's your plan to help the business community of Gloucestershire? Going to give you a minute, Chris.
Okay, on retail crime, the response by the police was absolutely shocking. And they accepted that when my team went in and did research on it. There's a whole 38-page report that we prepared for them. They accepted there was a plan. I don't think it was ever delivered because you've been reporting. Now it's even worse. It's in endemic levels now. So it didn't deliver that. And I would be wanting to know for the chief constable why I actually presented you with this plan, which you accepted back in 2020, I think it was. And why is it 10 times worse now? What have you been doing, Chief? What he'll probably say is, well, Mr. Nelson, you ditched that after the election. And mysteriously, that plan disappeared off the OPCC website just a couple of weeks ago.
Have you always had this in the back of your mind? Because you have been on Twitter quite a lot. You have been sort of sniping from the sideline.
Yeah,
Martin.
I accept I did. No, I really didn't think there was a landing strip to land into as PCC again after the election. There were bizarre elections. The Tories wiped the floor pretty much across the country. Good Labour people got kicked out. Good independents got kicked out as well. So I didn't think there was a way back. I was quite happy to retire. Now, you know, on a personal level, my life has completely changed. That's not what I wanted. It has. I have more time than I anticipated. I'm more determined than ever now to make sure in this county, every crime will matter. And retail crime is in a dreadful state right now. Now, what my team did, we went out to the retailers and said, what's happening? And they would say, here's an email from the police to say we don't deal with shoplifting under £100. I go to the chief, he said, yes, we do. I said, well, we don't. So that's retail crime. And burglary was not good enough. They need to do that. But business crime, frauds. You know, fraud does not get reported to the police. It gets reported. It is not recorded. I think it's about 38% of all crime. I may be wrong on that. The police do not record it. Nobody records it.
So what do you mean it's not? What do you mean it's not recorded? So if I have a case of fraud, or we know a particular case,
credit card fraud being spoofed online, not recorded. You know, your credit card, if it's stolen and it's used 1,000 times all over the world, they go and buy a Rolex, they go and buy that, not recorded in the police figures anywhere. It's on the banking figures. Now, what can the police do about that? The police in Gloucestershire cannot fix a fraud that comes from overseas, from Russia. They can't do that. So when I say every crime matters, what the police can do is support that victim to make sure that they are directed in the right area where they can get a response. So every crime will matter because the police will direct you and will check that where you're directed to is the right place to go. Others should be doing that as well. But then again, with business fraud, I know of cases where businesses like yours have been completely ripped off. And the police response has been shocking. There's several I took to the chief constable, and it's still not good. So that cannot be acceptable. Now, publicly, we have to tell the police, the public, what happened. Why did that happen? Is it resources? Is it you're not trained sufficiently? What is it? So I'm going to be more public. A really senior guy in the county came to me, lovely guy, you will know him, and said, Martin, why are you sugarcoating it for the public? Why are you doing this? You know how bad it is out there. This was around about 2018. I said, look, if the public knew just how bad things are right now. We lost over 250 officers, £32 million out of our annual budget. I said, if the public really knew, and even the criminals knew just how bad it's got right now, they would lose all confidence. So I can't do it. So I'm going to have to dress it up. Is that being political? I think it was the right thing at the time. But I'm not doing it anymore.
Are you trying to say that you didn't want to scare the general public? You didn't want to actually frighten them and make it easier for crooks to know actually there's a very thin blue line here? Absolutely,
because it was dangerous. In 2018, they nearly broke the Gloucestershire Constabulary. They nearly broke every force in the country. We dropped from, I think it was 1,310, 340 in 2010 to 1,040 in 2018. And they warned us, stand by for more cuts, Commissioner, they're on their way. We were saying, we can't take any more. We can't deliver for the public, not on burglary investigations, on anything. Because if we get a major attack, we're screwed. And that attack came. It didn't come in the UK. It happened in Paris in the Bataclan, where there was a massive terrorist attack. And commissioners of all colours went to see the cabinet secretary, I think it was the Home Secretary, I have no idea which one now, probably Amber Rudd, and said, we've got to know, if that happens here, we're screwed. We can't do it. And that's the day it changed.
Okay, we're kind of running out of time because we try and keep these Punchline Talks politics just 15 minutes. So a couple of minutes really. Horses. Horses are a bugbear for me. Police horses. I've been banging on about
yes.
I think we've got a whole cavalry now. I don't know what the numbers are. I've lost. Look, there's a lot of horses. We spend a lot of money on them. Where do you stand on top of?
Well, I'm delighted that the Commissioner Nelson now fully supports that. He doubted that it was a good idea. He wanted another review when he came into office, and he now supports the police officers. So do I, Mark. We have to disagree on something. I'm really pleased that up and down the country now supporting public order, football matches, think they're up in the West Midlands Police, supporting their areas in their football matches. They've been involved in public orders and riots. So that's great. So I hope they're up there sort of paying their way now. You know, the public love them. I can't remember the last time I saw Bobby on the beat, but yesterday I saw a police force going down Lansdowne Road in Cheltenham. And so let's just disagree on that, Mark.
Last question, which is a kind of biggie, really. When you lost last time, you weren't a great loser, I'm afraid. We tried. No, I'm afraid not. You weren't. We tried to phone you a number of occasions, left messages, all the rest of it after the actual account itself, and unfortunately, Martin, you didn't come back to us.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right. So I just want to say, if the same thing happens again, which I've got no opinion on, will you talk to us either way?
Yeah, of course I will. You know, one has to be prepared to win, be prepared to lose. I'd like to win. I was disappointed to lose. My deputy particularly, I felt for him. He was a young guy with a young family. He left his job at the PPC and he was out of work, that day. So I spent time with him. We talked it over. I think we went to a pint. I can't remember now what we did. And, I don't suppose you're my top priority then, Mark, or anybody else. But I certainly wasn't going to stick around to hear the very first comment from the Commissioner, who criticised my green credentials on the electric vehicles to say we should buy some British cars. And somebody pointed out to him that Nissan leaves some age of Sunderland, and it's one of the government's big headline deals. But, you have to have a sense of humour, don't you, Mark?
Martin Surl, thanks ever so much for talking.
You take care. Thank you, Mark.
Again. Bye.